At some point, we're all going to face challenges and hardships and struggles in life, whether it's going through a messy divorce or family problems or physical health in crisis, or maybe you lost a job that you loved and it just doesn't feel fair to you how things happened. You could be facing financial strain and stress, as many people are right now. And these struggles, these failures, they don't have to define you. Think of this as your place of positivity and hope in the midst of maybe some chaos in your life. We can come through this stronger and come out the other side more resilient. Let's do this together. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tom, and today we're talking about how we face hardships and challenges in our life. Now, we're going to face them. I wish you didn't have to, but it's going to happen. But what if we could redefine what these mean for us? Just because you're facing loss or failures or difficulties, that doesn't have to define your sense of worth or your potential going forward. I live in Florida, and we get hurricanes every once in a while, and they can just devastate everything. Imagine like a beautiful orchid. You see them in grocery stores with all these vibrant colors, but they're very delicate. They can't handle a hurricane. If you were to have these in your yard, they would be destroyed by a hurricane. But think about those strong live oak trees that have made it through all of these hurricanes year after year, and they just continue to thrive because they're deeply rooted. And that's what we want to talk about in this video, about how we can change our perspective to be more like the oak tree and be able to withstand the hurricanes and the storms of life rather than the beautiful orchid that everybody thinks is so wonderful but gets devastated under stress. The first point I want to make is whatever challenge you're going through, think of that as your calamity. That's the struggle, the difficulty, the hardship, and it may be different for you than it is for me, but all of us are going to have these calamities that come up in our lives that could easily overwhelm us and knock us out of the game. But here's the point I want to make. Your calamity does not define your identity. Just because you're going through a hard time, that doesn't define who you are as a person. So a lot of times people will use the label like I am divorced, or I am bankrupt, or I am sick or ill. And then you got to be really careful about this. You are identifying with your calamity. No, you're a person who is going through a divorce. You're a loving, awesome, generous, wonderful person who's suffering financial hardships. And it's very important that we learn to define ourselves properly. You guys that know the Enneagram know how important it is to make sure you understand your identity. You're going through loss. You're going through failure or pain or misery, but that doesn't make you a failure. It doesn't make you miserable. It just means you need a little bit of extra strength and an extra courage to face what you're challenged with right now. So be careful about how you identify yourself with your loss or with your setback. So be careful about the labels that you put on yourself: unemployed or homeless or divorced or struggling parent. These are just moments in your life. They're like chapters in the book, and you've got a whole lot of chapters coming, and maybe some of those pages are blank pages, and we got to think about what we're going to continue to write in this book. So detaching your identity from your calamity, you're taking back control, taking back your self-worth, and you're not the storm here. You're the survivor in the storm. The second point we want to make is that suffering loss is not the same thing as being a failure. You got to be careful about this. Yeah, you failed at what you were trying to do. Your new business venture, your relationship, it failed. Okay, well, think of it more like this. Both loss and failure, both you feel pain and you feel some level of suffering and disappointment. But if you define this as a failure and you are a failure, then why keep going? You might just decide you're going to give up. It just isn't going to work for you, and you will take yourself out of the game because you're discouraged, and rightly so. It feels uncomfortable. It feels painful to suffer a loss. Let's be careful, though, that we don't see all of these things as failures. Rather, think of them as losses. Okay, I had a loss. and I suffered a loss, and it feels uncomfortable. But this loss could sometimes be used to help me see things in a different way and set me up for a different future than what I had intended. Is this a setback or is this a set up? And it sounds a little cheesy, but it makes a lot of sense. It's a setback. You would never choose this in your life. The poor little orchid would never choose to go through a hurricane. And now look at it. It's defeated. It's pulled up out of the ground and it's dying. And it would never choose to do this. But that very same hurricane might blow the seeds, far and wide and spread that orchid seeds everywhere to richer soil. And so we aren't always the best at knowing whether a loss is really a failure or not. So we got to be careful how we define this. Let's not define it as failure. Let's define it as a loss. And now we got to do what? Get back up and get ourselves back into that game. So when you lose something, whether it's a relationship or a job, or whether it's, the level of health that you are used to living at, just recognize that, whatever it is you lost, it kind of opens up some room for something else. It kind of opens up a room for a different experience than what you had intended. And sometimes that different experience might be far better than where you're at right now. And the third point that we need to make is that your difficulties that you're going through right now do not necessarily need to disqualify you. Yes, you may have something going on in your life that you would never choose, something you're going through that you never saw yourself ever having to go through this, and it's very painful, and you can feel overwhelmed, and you can feel all alone and so tiny and so small, but realize that these difficulties do not mean that you are a terrible person. Just because you're suffering some kind of challenge in your life doesn't mean that you're not a loving, kind, strong, resilient person. Just because your kid is struggling to do well in school, it doesn't mean that you're a failure as a parent. It just means that you are a human and you are having some trouble. You're going through a storm. And these storms, they may do some damage to the leaves and the branches, but what's going on beneath the surface with the roots? Often during these difficult times that we would never choose, our roots are going down deeper. We're getting stronger and we're better able to not only face the challenge we're in, but to prepare us for the challenges that are coming in the future. So your difficulties, the storm that you're in right now, doesn't have to take you out of the game. In fact, it may be what God is using to make you stronger and more capable and able to face other challenges that are coming in the future. Okay, so what are we saying in this video? We're saying because you're a human being, you're going to suffer some challenges in life. It's going to happen. Even if you live to be 100 years old and you were never sick a day in your life, the people in your life that you love, that you're married to, your kids, your brothers and sisters, as they start dying, you're going to start to feel pain and loss and grief. You're going to face hardships in this life, and many of them you don't even see them coming. Now, these things do not have to be defined by you as failures that you should just quit, you should just give up. No, they're losses that you're going to go through. They're difficulties and hardships that can actually make you stronger. We got to not care so much about the leaves, how we appear on the surface, how people are valuing us and what people think about us, and recognize that all of these challenges, they have the opportunity to help us to dig our roots down in deeper and become stronger as people. And resilience is about not running from the challenges, but running toward them, facing them, redefining them. With every dark cloud that comes in your life, there is a silver lining. What are you going to focus on? Are you going to focus on the dark cloud? You can, but it's 100% predictable what's going to happen to you. You're going to feel discouraged, hopeless, defeated, alone, and miserable. And the more you feel that way, the harder it is for you to be able to face these challenges. So you got to make a decision. What am I going to focus on here? Am I going to focus on what people are saying about me? Am I going to focus on what the doctors tell me? Am I going to focus on what my ex-husband or ex-wife said about me? Or am I going to focus on facing this obstacle, facing this challenge with resilience? You get to make a decision here. Look, this is a place of positivity. This is a place of hope. This is a place of resilience. This is a place where we encourage one another. And maybe you need a little bit of encouragement. That's okay. We all do. That's not a sign of failure. Again, it's a sign that you're a human being. Reach out to me for support. I'd love to work with you and help you through whatever the next steps are in your life or in your relationship. Let's start today. Let's focus on what truly matters. And let's not let these failures define us any longer. These calamities are not our identity. And these losses do not mean that you are defeated. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. Be present to life, guys. I'll see you next time.